the Supply and Chain Podcasts. We are your hosts, Leo and Kristine.
We're so excited to welcome Kristine Martinez to our episode today. Chris, a human Google to all things data analytics. Chris founded the Financial Fox initiative to democratize machine learning in data analytics. He currently empowers the Kraft Heinz company's financial controlling units. He is also a finalist of the Young Leaders in Finance Awards Australia. Welcome, Chris.
Chris, we're so excited to welcome to our episode today, and we would like to start by asking you the very first question. Do you believe it's possible to achieve 100% connectivity across FMCG supply chains? We would like to understand from you, from the analytics perspective, if you're actually able to get all the data, what you would need.
I do think that it's possible to get 100% connectivity with the technologies that are right now, like with IoT, with Internet of Things, or even like with machine learning, data analytics. I think it's possible, but also like every day there are like coming up people with new ideas, new things, new ways to do things. So this connectivity it's increasing on a daily basis. With these like IoT devices, 5G, even like quantum computing, things like that, they are going to revolutionize, and then they're already doing it. The market, the industry. I think it will be a game changer in the next 5 to 10 years.
So now we're talking about that. Let's switch a little bit for about the industry in general. There's a lot of things that people can hear or read about, or maybe expectations that they have in different industries, and we call this as myths. So, which one is your favorite myth about this supply chain?
Yeah, I do remember like when I first started working in supply chain around 5-6 years ago. I was working for GE. One of the main things is like people started to think that supply chain was all about like experience and like intuition. But I think that right now that's one of the biggest myths, just because I do think that this is the age of data, and like everything. It's not just about like experience, like empirical studies, just like based on like one people's mind, but it's all around like which data can drive to the right direction to the business. So I think that that's the biggest one that I can recall at this stage.
Would you mind to share from your experience, what's the most innovative recent supply chain initiative, project, startup you have come across?
Obviously, when you say supply chain, there's a lot of different spheres, right? So like there's procurement, logistics, there's manufacturing. So one of my favorite ones is actually on this manufacturing side of things, that it's called Tulip. It's kind of like startup scale up in the US that are using IoT, like Internet of Things devices, in order to drive improvement across factories. So basically, they give you like a set that is like $1,000, $2,000 that you can put in your factory, and then it starts measuring all the data from all the production lines, and then basically it enables you to get real-time data on many things that you can use in order to improve and like drive your OEE, your KPIs.
For a while, I guess, in the beginning of the last decade, you were trying to put a screen into everything. You know, you have like your washing machine connects to the internet. Do we need this, or why will I want to buy a chair that connects to the internet? What is the barrier when you will say that this technology became almost like a joke, and when it kind of is being used in a way that you will say, okay, it's finally it's starting to make sense and it's starting to be productive?
So like it really depends. Like when you say IoT, like where do you put it? So there could be cases that you put like IoT technologies in wearables, for example, and you start having like all of these devices in your hand, on your wrist, those Google glasses or like Apple glasses or whatever. That's one thing. But in the supply chain type of like industry, I do believe that you can't improve what you can't measure. So if you get more data, more better data, like more real-time data across everything that you want to measure, then you can actually generate like data-driven improvements, basically. So I do think that IoT is one of the technologies that is like driving all of this change in supply chain, but it's not just the only one. So I mentioned like quite a few times that one, but let's say after using IoT to get the data, you need to understand the data.
Yeah.
What do you normally use? Well, humans were very good to understand like different data, different things. But whenever we start generating this big data, then we need machines. Specifically, we need machine learning. We need like either supervised learning, unsupervised learning, deep learning, something like that, neural networks. So that's where all of these like ML comes handy. So there are many algorithms that you can use. Really, it's not that difficult or that impossible to understand. There are like some algorithms that they are basically just statistics at a high school level, such as like linear regression. And there are like more difficult things during afterwards, but that's only the second part. So like that algorithm to understand this. And then you need all of these like business intelligence tools to actually visualize all of this. So you have your Power BI, your Tableau, your Alteryx, and again, all of these new technologies, a lot of times you don't even need to learn how to code to use them. There's a lot of these new ones, like Alteryx, for example, that is super user-friendly, super good for you to actually do things without coding. There are even like if you want to create an app, there's this new thing called Bubble that you can create an app without coding. It's like all of these new startups is that you don't really need to be like a rocket scientist in order to understand them and to use them. So that's why I was saying like you have to obviously generate the data somehow, but then it's what you do with that data what really matters.
It's interesting you mentioned that because it's true, right? Like the first step is that you can use many technologies out there, IoT being again one of those technologies to collect data. You just get a bunch of data, but then you need to do the second part, which is that you work with that data to get results. But also, I will say that you will need the probably the most critical factor is people as well, because if you don't make decisions based on data, or you don't make the right decisions with that data, it's meaningless. Rubbish in, rubbish out. So if you need to have like a culture that reacts or even decides on data, and then obviously, ideally, we are in that place when through machine learning, AI, you cannot just react to whatever is going on through data, but actually predict things or get ahead of the curve to what's happening. But in the supply chain industry, where do you think overall, what do you think we are? Do you think we're still trying to collect data? Do you think we're already trying to figure out what to do with this data? Or we're already seeing some people that are actually, on the front end and really start shaping the future through data?
So obviously, like in the supply chain industry, there are different companies in all different stages. But I think as a whole, we are in the third one. We are almost at the stage that in 2 or 3 years, we're going to talk about new things.
Yeah.
So one of them being, I think, it's like quantum computing that really would like revolutionize the way we do things. But what about, let's say, space exploration? Same thing. Supply chain, or everything that we're doing here, but in space. So I do think that in a couple of years, we're going to be talking about all of these even more futuristic technologies. So right now, I would say, yes, we're in the third stage that you mentioned.
How do you feel from your own experience within a supply chain, starting very beginning from the product development down to manufacturing? How much innovation do you guys use within your own company? How you're actually acquiring external data sets to be able to benchmark your own innovation metrics?
We're all about like being agile, like responding to these like these new challenges that we face day on day. And our culture is basically a culture of like continuous improvement and ownership. So we are utilizing not just these technologies all technologies, new technologies, but just everything, and to drive this continuous improvement across the company, trying to measure first, as I was saying, then understand all of the data that we're capturing, and then actually using business intelligence tools to get more like data-driven insights.
Especially the FMCG industry is probably one of the least affected by the COVID finance impact. Garments, footwear, luxury, those were the first things to go out the window, but people still need to buy food. So you have the advantage that when there is probably a recession in most of the industries out there, FMCG products are still moving, you still have your cash flow. And now that the world has been pushed by life into using more technologies, because now we're all working from home, we're got used to technologies. Which do you think are like the next big trends in the FMCG industry globally?
AI would like really be used across the industry in a daily basis, like everywhere. So I think it's like it will be like really coming to the industry across like different companies. After that, then I do think that one of the technologies that will be like mostly used would be the one that I was like mentioning of quantum computing, just to power like more AI the benefits. And that will be, I think, that will be like around like 2023, 2024, 2025. So I do think that those would be the two biggest new things happening in the industry. Not just supply chain, not just FMCG, but actually pretty much everywhere in the next 5 years.
How much do you use it currently, the AI aspect for yourself for the predictions?
There is this new thing from Azure, from Microsoft Azure, called AutoML, that it's actually machine learning models, but are generated by an AI. So it's like basically AI building AI models. And it's like kind of a new thing in the last year or so. And that's the latest one that I have been experimenting with. One of the other things actually that I have mentioned is all of these like cloud-enabled technologies. Just one small example is like when I started learning again, like all of this programming, I had to use my own server, my own computer to run my algorithms. Right now, there's this again newish thing called Google Colab, or even in Azure ML as well, that you can run all of your algorithms, but in the cloud. So it's like a Google Docs, but for programming. Kind of. I discovered really like, well, for myself at least, 6 months ago. And I was like really excited because again, now I don't need to depend on my computing power from my computer just to run all of these experiments. I can just have them there in the cloud.
Are you looking from the very beginning of supply chain till the end, or what is your main focal point currently?
Right now, my main focal point is manufacturing. I have worked before in logistics and then in global trade. In GE, then I moved more to the like economics part. I used to work in Geneva for the Mexican mission to the World Trade Organization and the United Nations, so the WTO. And then I moved to be like supply chain finance. That it was like around like everything, like logistics, procurement, manufacturing. But just earlier this year, I moved to Brisbane, to like the other city in Australia, to be just focused on the manufacturing side of things.
Awesome. From your very extensive international experience, what has been your biggest failure and challenge, and how you actually learned from it?
In one of my previous employers, I was trying to utilize this new, at that time, tool, this business intelligence tool. That for me, like it was kind of like a new thing. I tried to really just like learn it somewhere, get it in Google, try to understand how to be used. And then I was very excited. So I pitched the idea to use this new technology like the next day. And I do think that I didn't pitch it in a way to actually, like, I didn't even understand the technology myself because I was like so excited that I just wanted to say it. So when I started like talking to that like those people, they were telling me like a lot of questions that I didn't have the answers to. I went and tried to get the answers, but still there was not the most effective way. Um, and actually, I saw that a couple of years later, those same people were utilizing that exact technology
Wow.
that I told them about it. So what I saw from there is like it's not the technology, it's not the idea, but it's more about like how you sell it and how you tell to people to the people that are going to utilize it to communicate the benefits of it basically.
During this whole conversation, we've noticed that you always are trying to keep up with the new technology and new trends. So for the people listening and watching, how would you share what are your ways to keep on top of things, to see what are the new trends? What channels do you recommend to follow, either magazines, YouTube channels, books?
One, it's Medium, so the platform Medium.
Yeah.
I have a blog there, but I also go and look like different other blogs almost daily to see like different people write about different things, not just in supply chain, but across like finance, data science, new technologies, even like space exploration, stuff that I'm really interested in. The second one, it's podcasts. So just as this one, obviously, I try just when I try to just like when I go to gym, that I put like a little bit of music, but always like I'll try to put like a podcast that like Spotify recommends me. And the third one would be actually like do YouTube videos quite a bit. Again, just like to get new insights. To the point that actually YouTube on the homepage, it recommends me quite a good like range of things.
It kind of knows you already. It knows what you're gonna like.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing. Like I do feel like whenever just that's the technology, the whole thing. It's with the ML algorithm that this like Spotify or YouTube or Netflix even use. It's like if you like something, if you spend time on something, then it will recommend you the similar thing.
Yeah.
So I do feel like a snowball effect that if you are interested in these type of things, as if you look for them like a lot, then you will get more in your like in your feed on LinkedIn, Facebook, also like either in Medium, in YouTube, or something. So those would be like the three main things that I use. Oh, and the fourth one as well. Right now, I haven't been able to do it for a while, but it was going to events, to go to meetups, like from the app Meetup. I used to organize one in Melbourne as well every month, but I used to go like I don't know twice per week to different meetups across heaps of different things. In terms of books, I have this one that I really like called The Lean Startup by Eric Rice. That it's one of my favorite ones. That I do think that it really helps, not just for entrepreneurs, not just for startups, but really that mentality.
Yep.
And the other one would be Scrum, that is the same thing. It's just like a methodology, like a mentality that can be helpful across different industries. Right now, there are like heaps and heaps of resources. Like I really like EDX, for example, and Coursera, but just specialized in data. There's this thing called Data Camp, like that it's really, really good. And in Australia and then in some cities in the US as well, there's another one called General Assembly, that it's that's a school basically that gets like courses of like data analytics, user experience, like UX, stuff like that. That it's also like really, really cool. I used to go like quite often to the one in Melbourne, and they just opened the one in Brisbane now. But then I haven't been able to go because of like COVID. But they are also going to be doing events here.
Kristine, thank you very much for your time and answering these questions and kind of exploring what's coming in the supply chain for the future and are currently happening. We're just too busy trying to stay alive to see it. So thank you very much, and let's keep in touch.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. See you.
Maybe your pitch was actually pretty effective if they went for it.
It just took a while for them to catch up with it.
Yeah.
Ahead of your time.